You clicked on this video for one of two reasons. One is you're desperate to get your child away from video games and Netflix and get them involved in something that doesn't involve technology. Or you're one of those fortunate parents that's had a child come to them and say, "Mommy, Daddy, I want a fish tank." Whichever reason brought you here, this is going to be the video you've been looking for, because we're going to go over the top 10 fish that are perfect for children selected by us and our channel members. I guess there is a third reason that could have brought you here, and that's that you're one of those crazy people like me that'll watch anything involving aquariums. And when you talk about tetras, there's a lot to choose from, all different shapes, sizes, colors, and everything else. But one of the biggest things that I'm a fan of when it comes to children keeping tetras is something that's kind of controversial, and that is that most of them are dirt cheap. And this is going to be good, because if you're going to have the child do this all by themselves, there's a real good chance that they might go through some fish. Heck, even if it's you that's helping them, you're probably going to go through the growing pains associated with new fish keeping. You're probably going to lose a lot of fish, and the fact that they're so cheap kind of helps the pocketbook in the end. I know that sounds morbid, but it is one of those things that getting used to keeping aquariums, you're going to go through some fish, and if you go out and buy a bunch of really expensive fish and you end up going through them, if you know what I mean, that could hurt a little bit. With tetras being a dime a dozen, that definitely helps. But there's another thing about them, and that is that most of them are pretty easy to keep. Very hardy fish, and again, lots of different sizes, shapes, and colors, so they're very appealing to children. They're also very cheap, and they're also very easy to keep. So it's really one of those perfect fish for children and new fish keepers.
Bettas are a great fish for children. They come in so many different colors. They have the males, they have the females, so your child can choose his favorite color or her favorite color, and if they want a boy or a girl. And there's so many decorations for bettas. They're absolutely easier to take care of. They have to have maintenance done as well. They have to be taken care of appropriately, having a filter or a sponge filter, a heater, and the appropriate size tank. But in the long run, these are great fish for children. Your child will absolutely love going to the pet store and picking out his favorite fish.
So of course goldfish were going to be on this list, right? I mean, you weren't expecting to not see them on this list, and there's a lot of reasons why that is. First, goldfish are everywhere. You see them all over the place, and odds are, if you've taken your child to the pet store, they've seen the tank that has the most fish in it is a goldfish tank. It's just unfortunate that they're feeder fish, but the kids don't know that. But anyway, goldfish attract a lot of children to this hobby, and it's good because they're very easy to keep. They're very hardy. They can tolerate a lot of the mistakes that children might make in this hobby, and they're also pretty cheap depending on what kind you get. Of course, there's plenty of fancy goldfish that are pretty expensive, but you can start your child off with some feeder fish. I know how crazy that sounds, but they cost like 10, 12 cents a piece, and they're great. But here's the biggest thing that I want to warn every parent about when it comes to keeping goldfish. You're gonna go to the pet store and you're gonna see starter kits that are like a 5-gallon starter kit, and they're gonna have goldfish in the tank in the picture of the box for that tank. Don't fall for that. Goldfish need much larger aquariums than that, especially if we're talking about comet goldfish, which is what you'll commonly find as feeder fish. You do not want to put these fish in a 5-gallon tank. In my opinion, they should be in a minimum of a 55-gallon tank, And the odds are you're not going to be buying one of those for your child. There are some goldfish that stay smaller, not tiny, but smaller, that can be kept in 20-gallon tanks. But if your goal is to buy your child a small aquarium to start out with, don't fall for the picture that's on the tank and get them goldfish for that tank. It's not fair to do that. But if they have the right size aquarium, goldfish are fantastic for children, easy to keep. Yes, you just gotta love goldfish. And they're not only good for children, they're good for adults too.
Guppies are another really cool fish for your child to keep. Not only do you have so many varieties, you can get 4 or 5, stick it in a 10-gallon tank, but I think I would try maybe a 20, just because if you were to get 4 or 5 guppies, you're gonna have a bunch of babies, and then you might have to explain where babies come from. So guppies, they're still really cool fish, but maybe you should just get all males. Guppies are also not the kind of fish that you have to worry about when it comes to aggression. So your child, they're not gonna have to worry about watching, the guppy eat the other guppy or anything gruesome like that. Guppies are friendly, they're sweet, and they're a lot of fun.
Ah yes, glowfish. We had to talk about these fish, a fish that we've talked about before in the past, and we've gotten in a little bit of trouble for it. But it's because we didn't do a good job explaining our position when it comes to goldfish. So listen, folks, goldfish are cool. They're awesome. They're a spectacle. They're really neat. But what we want to stay away from is people buying glowfish because of that spectacle. Not because they're interested in the life of that fish and wanting to provide a good life for that fish, but because it's neat and look, it's a cool decoration. That's what we don't like about glowfish. But let's face it, if you're walking through a pet store and they have one of those glowfish display things and the fish are bright like a neon sign, your kids are going to be drawn to that. So there's a very good chance that that is what gets them interested in this hobby. And for that, it's great. But we want to make sure that these fish are not treated as decorations. We want to make sure they're treated like the special little lives that they are. I know I sound like a crazy person when I say that, but I am a crazy person, and you're the one watching my video, so maybe you're crazy too, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. All of these fish on this list, we are hoping that when the child gets these fish, they are gonna do their best with the parents' guidance to make sure that they're taking care of those fish properly, particularly when it comes to glowfish, because it's gonna be a lot of really micro children that are gonna see those. They're gonna want them. I hope you, the parent, is prepared to help the little one out with the glowfish and with all the fish on this list. But glowfish, they're really cool. Just please don't treat them like a decoration.
Mollies are super cute. You can get them in all kinds of colors. You can get them in different shapes even. And they're a lot of fun for kids. They're pretty hardy and they're definitely easy to breed. If you want to get a tank full of them, I would start with a 20-gallon though, because some of them can get a little bit bigger than regular small fish like Tetras and Guppies. But Mollies are fun, and I would definitely recommend Mollies for your child. One of the most important things about getting a fish or any kind of pet for your child is that they're ready for this new life. It's so important to make sure that they are going to be responsible and do the right thing for their new fish. I'm going to give you an example of something that has happened to us with one of our daughters. She brought home this cute little black cat. It was so adorable. And it had been at her friend's house, and the cat had had kittens, and definitely in a safe environment. But she brought it home thinking she could just keep this cat in her room. And because I'm a crazy cat lady, she thought she could get away with it. But I told her, take that kitten back. You cannot have this kitten until you get a job, because she was around 16 or 17 and I had been getting on her quite a bit about getting a job. I said, you have to get a job so that you can get the cat food and you could get the kitty litter for this precious little kitten. You have to be responsible. So stupid. Long story short, she had a job within a month and she was able to bring that kitten home, and we've had him ever since, and he's probably like 4 years old now. So I just think it's super important to make sure that your kids are ready for their new pet.
Corydoras, I am so glad these fish were included on the list, because this is possibly the most unique fish on the list. It's not just your normal fish-shaped fish, whatever, but these are very unique little arrowhead-shaped fish that stay down on the bottom. They like to be in schools, a bunch of little catfish swimming around. They're absolutely adorable, and they're unique, which is something that can definitely draw children to them. Pretty hardy. They're not the easiest fish to keep on this list, but they are a pretty simple fish to keep, so they will be good for children. They don't need a huge tank, but do keep in mind that for these fish to be the happiest, you are going to want to keep them in a group like we talked about. So make sure your tank can handle that. If you're going to get a 5-gallon, don't go buying 8 Corydoras. It's just not going to be right for the fish. They stay small, but not that small. This is a great fish that will combine with a lot of the other fish on this list to kind of patrol the bottom of the tank for your kids, to help them out with keeping the bottom clean. These are not tank cleaners by any stretch, but they will help to keep the uneaten food and stuff like that taken care of on the bottom of the tank. Great, great fish for children.
Danios are my second favorite fish when it comes to children. Of course, Bettas is always going to be number 1, but Danios are super active and they are bulletproof. Now, if you have a 10-gallon tank, you might want to stick with the zebra Danios, because there are so many other Danios out there that get larger, and you would totally overcrowd a 10-gallon tank with those. But zebra Danios are fun, active. You can have 5 or 7 in a 10-gallon tank. Add a couple snails in there just to give it a little bit more activity, and heck, why not just put a SpongeBob decoration in there too while you're at it. It's a lot of fun. Your kids will love it.
I know my channel members included Oscars on this list to just kind of satisfy me, because anytime I ever ask for what's the best fish for anything, people want to make me happy by putting Oscars on the list because they know how much I love them. But let's talk about them for children. Yes, they are great for children, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to make my case for why Oscars are great for children, but then we're going to give you the absolute number 1 stipulation to keeping these fish. I think you know what that's going to be. But listen, when it comes to personality, when it comes to the closest thing you're going to find to a water dog, it's going to be Oscars. This is not my bias talking here. This is just the way it is. If you've ever seen an Oscar, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They will become a pet. And I think that's critical for children, to not look at them as just something floating around in the water, but look at them as a pet. If you're drawn to that animal because they interact with you like a dog would, you're more likely to have a vested interest in making sure that you do right by that animal, and Oscars will absolutely do that with your children. I promise you as much. But like I said, there is one big stipulation, and this is probably the thing that would make them not the best for kids, or at least not the parents of those kids, and that is you're not going to be starting your Oscar tank off, or you're not going to be getting Oscars in a 5 or a 10-gallon tank, which is what a lot of people are going to want to start off with children. Oscars get huge. We all know that. So you are going to be starting your child off with a big tank. Just know that going in, at least 75 gallons as far as I'm concerned. And even that is a little too small. I've got mine in a 360 gallon. You don't need to go to those extremes, but 75 bare minimum for an Oscar. And that's probably more than what you're expecting to do for your child. Probably won't even fit in the child bedroom. So understand that I'm not telling you Oscars are gonna be fine in your child's 10-gallon starter kit. Not even close. But if you're gonna maybe do this hobby with them, and it's gonna be something that you do together, and you are willing to get a bigger tank, I'm gonna tell you there is gonna be no fish that is more satisfying to own than an Oscar, because again, it is like having an underwater dog.
White clouds are very underrated fish. You don't see them in the hobby as much as you used to, but I do believe that they are awesome fish for children. Not only do they stay small and they're super active, they're cool water fish. So it's kind of like one less thing you have to worry about, you know, making sure that they have a heater. Of course, you don't want to keep them out in freezing cold temperatures. You want to keep them in your home. If you're comfortable, they're comfortable. White clouds are just a no-brainer. That's the fish you want to get your kid.
So there you go. I hope this helped you out making your decision of what fish to get for your little ones. These are all great fish on the list. I'm not going to argue with any of them, and I hope it opened your eyes up a little bit to the little things to know about these fish before you go to the store and buy them. Because one of the biggest mistakes that you can make is going to the store to make your decision, even if you're buying fish for the little one. You're gonna wanna know what you're getting into before you buy those fish. So watch videos like this, read articles, do as much research as you can before you go to the store, because when the little one says, that's the one I want, and you look at it and it's a dove, you're gonna know you probably shouldn't get that for your child unless you plan on starting them off with a 300-gallon tank. So know what you're getting into before you go to the store. This way, Jimmy or Billy or whatever the child's name is, why did I come up with those two names? But that way, the child is not disappointed. You don't want to break their heart. Start this hobby off with a big disappointment. You don't want to do that. So do your research, go in there prepared, and know exactly what little Jimmy or little Billy can get. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point. Thank you so much for watching this, and I look forward to bringing you another video like this next week.